Okay, so first of all, good morning to everybody, and thank you all for joining us. This is a joint effort between all the boroughs, Manhattan, the family support services boroughs in Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, and Brooklyn, and we're very happy to be able to present together. And thank you to all the statewide people that have come as well. I am, along with Mary McGuire-Weeper, the co-chairs of the Manhattan Family Support Services Advisory Council. I'm just going to read a little bit about our presentation today. We are excited to announce the new Ombuds program. It's headed by Community Service Society of New York. It's now open and ready to accept calls of people with developmental disabilities and their family members in need of assistance, resolving concerns, navigating barriers to services, and making the right connection. The new office will operate independently of OPWDD and was developed to provide education and help people better understand their rights, have advocacy and support for navigating the OPWDD system. People with developmental disabilities and their families should continue to work with their care managers. When it comes to service access and coordination, the Ombuds is not meant to replace the current mechanisms for assessing services, but is meant to provide an avenue for resolving issues and complaints when existing mechanisms have not produced a resolution. So we're very privileged to have the two people who are going to present today on the new Ombuds program. And I will leave it to you guys. Thank you.
I'm just going to introduce Tina Velos, also on the call from the Bronx. She's our FSS statewide and the chair for the Bronx FSS Council.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Tina. Welcome.
Thank you.
Rach, it's yours. All yours.
All right, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Flor Ramirez, and I'm here to talk about the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Ombuds Program, or what we have been calling IDDO. And like was said just a second ago, we are New York State's Ombuds program for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So quick agenda of what we'll talk about today. We'll go through brief introductions of myself and Rachel, my coworker who's also on the line. I'll tell you a little bit about what CSS is, and then we'll talk a bit about us, the IDDO, and then hopefully we'll have a few minutes for feedback and questions. Next slide. So like I said, my name is Flor Ramirez. I'm the supervising attorney of this program, so I'm leading this project for CSS. And I am a parent of two boys, one of whom has autism and enrolled in OPWDD supports and services, specifically self-direction. And so this is very close to my heart and something I'm very passionate about. I did struggle to go through the enrollment process, and so I want to make sure that no one really has to, and that people have the resources and tools necessary to have a good experience. Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself quickly so that we get that out the way?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Schumann. I'm IDDO's Training and Outreach Manager. I've had the pleasure, I think, to meet and speak with many of you. My professional background is in social work. I was previously working with individuals who have Medicare and Medicaid, and I'm really excited to join IDDO because I have two siblings on the autism spectrum, and I grew up in Westchester County. And so, as Flor said, this work is also very not just professionally important to me, but also personally.
Thank you, Rachel. Next slide. So who is CSS? So, or Community Service Society of New York. I think that some folks in the health insurance world may have heard of us, but I don't want to assume that this particular niche of, you guys have heard of us, right? And so, we are the leading nonprofit in New York State, and we promote economic opportunity for New Yorkers. The way that we do our work is through direct services, advocacy, and research, and we serve over 130,000 people annually. Next slide. What CSS is known for is operating live answer helplines. So actually, I have worked with CSS since 2008. Not that I want to age myself, but I joined them in leading and working in several of the other ombuds programs. So CSS leads other ombuds programs. And so I've worked with community health advocates, which is the you can go next slide. Oh, or go back for a second. Sorry, I thought so, you know, we have 4 ombuds programs. And so one of them is Community Health Advocates, which is an all-payer program. So it helps individuals in any type of health insurance remove barriers to care. We understand that having insurance is very important, but like it can be very challenging to navigate that. We have the Behavioral Health Ombuds program, which is CHAMP, and that's the one that I just came from. So I was leading that project for a little bit. Thank you, Rachel. And we have the Independent Consumer Advocacy Network program, or known as ICANN. And we have the version of CHA, so in the New York City area, which is the Managed Care Consumer Assistance Program. So let's go back, Rachel. We should just, yeah. So who is IDDO? So I guess like the takeaway from before is that we have a lot of experience running ombuds programs in the state of New York. We serve over 130,000 people annually. We have a lot of experience running live answer helpline. So big deal for us is like, we want to make sure that if you call our number, our statewide toll-free number, that you get someone live. We want to make sure that you feel heard and that someone is listening to whatever concerns or the help that you need. So that is the big takeaway about CSS. And so who is IDDO? I hope you love our logo. Next slide. So we were authorized by, under Mental Hygiene Law 33.28. And the goal was to provide an independent, conflict-free ombudsman services to assist individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities preserve their rights. So a big goal of us is act as a resource and advocate. That's broad. Whatever help you need related to OPWDD supports and services, we're here to listen to you and to try to help you. Even if you're not enrolled yet, if you want to know information about how to get enrolled, we can also help you with that. So a lot of people don't know what an ombudsman is. So, Rachel added something about that, which I thought was really good. It's like ombudsman is a Swedish word for representative. So we are an advocate, we mediate, we educate, we refer people to resources if necessary. And, you may have heard of that in other contexts, such as nursing homes, I think, have some ombudsmen, some residential care facilities, etc. Next slide. We talked about the 4 ombudsman programs that we run at CSS. Next slide. And so, is this where you take it, Rachel?
I mean, I'm happy to, Flor.
Yeah, you can take it from here.
Okay. Thank you to my colleague Flor for giving us kind of the background on what CSS is and how, what IDDO is and how IDDO started. So I'm going to talk quickly about, what are we actually doing as the Ombuds program? So as Flor mentioned, helplines are one of the things that CSS has a lot of experience with. So one of the first things, that we did as a program is set up our statewide helpline, where people can call Monday through Friday and ask questions or request assistance with anything related to OPWDD supports and services or accessing OPWDD eligibility. We also do casework. So sometimes when people call or contact us, they might have an issue that's more complex, or just might require additional follow-up. And so we call that casework, where, the individual is paired with one of our staff who kind of works with them, to identify the nature of the problem that they're having and work to resolve it. And, a lot of it is dependent on what the issue is. And then my role as training and outreach manager is primarily focused on education and outreach. So doing presentations such as this one, going to community events, resource fairs, and part of that will also eventually be building our own website with educational resources and materials, as well as, you know, organizing our regional outreach network, which I'll talk about. And then our last sort of function is related to policy and advocacy. So obviously, if we're kind of directly assisting folks, we're going to identify trends or systemic issues that people are facing. And I think part of our utility as a program is, because we are hearing from individuals all across the state, we have the ability to kind of aggregate data about general trends and report to OPWDD, like these are the sort of major issues that are going on. And obviously, if you're in this meeting, I'm sure you're more than familiar with some of the, issues that individuals are facing, or, you've been personally impacted by some of the barriers to OPWDD supports and services. So there's that data collection, kind of identifying what are the issues, and then a sentinel function, which means kind of describing what those issues are and reporting on those trends to OPWDD.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. So how do we function? CSS is the hub. So we are providing casework assistance. We are running the statewide helpline. We are developing resources and educational materials, but obviously we can't do all of our work alone. So we do have partnerships. We are, building a regional outreach network. We have 8 organizations that are kind of signed on to help us promote IDDO and provide education to different, communities across the state. We also have parent and caregiver groups, self-advocates, and we have a specialist, which is New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. So they are kind of here to support our staff with training, technical assistance, and legal referrals. And I already spoke about the regional outreach network, so I'll move on to the next slide. So how can you get help from IDDO? So of course, like I mentioned, we have a helpline. Our helpline number is 1-800-762-9290. We have an email. We also have a landing page on CSS's website where you can fill out an intake form. We have, in terms of language capacity, we have some Spanish-speaking staff, and we also have one staff person who speaks Mandarin and Cantonese, and we have a language line that we can use for interpretation services for other languages. So we're very fortunate to have that capacity. And so what exactly do we help with? I know that, there's a lot of supports and services under OPWDD. So what exactly are we doing? So these are just some examples of things that we have already seen on our helpline. We are educating people about OPWDD eligibility and waiver eligibility, as well, as well as helping them through that front door process. We are helping people explore housing options and trying to mediate disputes. We are answering questions about the roles of CCOs and care managers. We're helping folks navigate self-direction. Self-direction is a huge topic that I think is coming up a lot, along with housing, and community classes is an issue we've gotten a lot of calls and emails about. And then we're also, part of our function is to preserve people's rights, and part of that is advising them on what is their right to request a fair hearing, or pursue an administrative dispute process. If they need an attorney, we aren't allowed at this time to provide legal representation, but we can, connect people with an attorney if that is what they need. for a particular issue. So what do we not do? So I think Jackie, put this beautifully in her introduction, but we are not here to replace CCOs. So we're not providing care management services. People should still rely on their care manager and CCO for ongoing, care management and care coordination. We are really here to help people when, their options have been exhausted or they have been unsuccessful with working with their, existing care manager or CCO. We also don't do anything related to education and school-based services. So if someone is having issues with their IEP or their child's IEP or Section 504 plan or other school-based services, that is not an issue that we assist with, but we are happy to, point the person in the right direction. We also don't assist with access to early intervention services that are provided through the Department of Health or covered through insurance, such as ABA therapy. And I think as Flor mentioned, CSS has been around for a very long time. We also have a lot of partnerships with different organizations across the state, as well as our own programs. So we're in a really great position to, refer people and connect people to the appropriate resources thoughtfully. So for example, we've gotten some cases of people who are getting, denied ABA therapy services through their insurance. And luckily, we have a program within CSS called CHAMP that is focused on behavioral health that we can make that sort of warm connection to, so the person doesn't have to call another place and tell their story, all over again, because we know that can be part of the frustration when you're trying to, get help for something, having to call all these places or contact all these places and repeat yourself. So we're in a great position for that. So yeah, I think that is it in terms of our content. I'll put up our names and emails on the screen, and we'll take, I think, questions we have 10 minutes for questions. So okay, who raised their hand? I think Roy, you raised your hand first, so I'll call on you. Oh, I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Thank you. I always forget to do that. Under the care management, not taking over care management issues. But if I have, and I have had a problem with what's going on with my loved one in his residential setting, and I'm being told that they're following OPWDD rules. And in my ignorance, I've only been around for about 60 years, but I went to OPWDD and then they kicked me back to the care manager. And I'm looking for a rule, to find out whether what they're telling me is an agency policy or an OPWDD policy. And I've got caught in a circular motion of going from the agency to OPWD to CCO, and the CCO doesn't know, what isn't an expert in OPWDD policy. So you would not help with that?
Yes, we would. I think that's an example that we see a lot. So I think I like to say that we are a bridge, and we're a bridge. We want to hold people. I think some folks may need to mute themselves. So yeah, Roy, we would absolutely help, because another thing that we can do is also figure out what the policy is, educate the care management if necessary as to what they need to do. Escalate within the care management agency if we feel.
Well, you just muted yourself, Flo.
No, someone else unmuted me, I think by mistake. But yeah, so escalate things within the CCO if need be, and then help you navigate whatever barrier your loved one is facing in, either getting services or whatever barrier if it's in a residential setting. So you can absolutely call our helpline. We are staffed by 2 attorneys and 4 IDDO counselors, and we're here to look at the whole picture, see where there are holes, and try to help you fill them. Now, when we say that we don't take over the care management role, is that we're not going to provide you care management services, but we will connect you to the care manager or their supervisor, or escalate within the CCO and make sure that things are being done timely, that they're being responsive to you, and that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, but my point was, there was a time before care management, and you used to be able to go to OPWDD to get answers, and this was specifically about what was OPWDD's policy on this issue.
We would research that, Roy. We would find out. We would talk to OPWDD directly, and then sort
Yeah,
of.
but I'm just upset because back in the day, we used to talk to OPWDD directly without filters. So
I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand. It's yeah, they're absolutely. I understand where you're coming from. I mean, we can also, we're tracking data because we want to voice concerns of people. That's why we use our Sentinel function to sort of like see what is happening and how we can make the system better. So that's good feedback.
Thank
Well,
you,
yeah,
Roy.
okay, so that's the important thing is I could get help and possibly an answer through you rather than just getting in that triangular circle if there's
Yeah.
is such
Yeah.
a, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Kapana, I don't know if I'm
Hi.
saying your name
Hi, yes,
correctly.
my name is Pana. The K is silent.
Oh,
So I have two questions. The first one is you mentioned, for example, if somebody called, you have a program called Champs. So is that information available on your website? Because I'm just wondering how you do the referral to other entities within your organization if it's something that the IDDO cannot help with.
Yeah, and we
So
do it all
that's my
the time.
first question. The second one is, can you elaborate a little bit more on the support that you provide with self-direction? Because I'm also a parent with a child who receives self-direction services. And as we all know, as we all may know, community classes have been a big issue in terms of the FIs, and every FI is doing something different in regards to what they approved for community classes. So it would be great if you could just elaborate more on your support regarding self-direction.
Yep. So the first question, so we have a case cloud-based management system that is very sophisticated, in which we're all gathering a lot of data, and our sister programs and us are able to sort of like talk to each other in a like that I would call a warm transfer of the case. So for example, if you come to me and you need an ABA therapy, and that's out of scope for IDDO, I would transfer that case to our sister program, CHAMP, and say to them, talk to their supervising attorney. Remember, I also came from that place. Actually, Rachel also worked for CHAMP as well, to some degree. And so we're all very familiar with the rules and what CHAMP can and cannot do. And we would transfer that so that you can get a call and get help. We also have our FEABD program that helps with like Medicaid applications, something that we are seeing with with the people that call us sometimes, not all of them, but for example, they didn't renew their Medicaid because they didn't get the packet, or whatever happened, something happened that sort of like created a loss in coverage. And obviously we need the Medicaid active. And so we also have a sister program operating all over the state that can help people sort of like navigate those issues. So that's the first. I hope that addresses a little bit the first. Also, all of this information is on our website that I believe Rachel has put in the chat. All of the programs that CSS has, just
Right.
generally, because you don't have to call us if you want to call them directly. Absolutely. If you see that you want to call, if you see all our programs and you see that you have a need that is not IDDO specific, you can absolutely call them directly. But if you happen to call us for something that you think falls within our scope and it doesn't, I'm not going to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that I'm connecting you with someone that can help you so that you have a better experience.
Okay.
That's the
Thank
first.
you so much for that. And I just wanted to highlight to my colleague Ruth the Roma. She noted in the chat that we have a helpline. I also work at Include
Oh.
NYC, and we are one of your outreach partners, as has already been noted in the chat. So I just wanted to note that.
Yeah. In terms of the second question, community classes is a big deal for us, actually. We're tracking that very closely, and we We need data on that because I do think that there's, we need to sort of like explain to OPWDD the challenges on the ground. How we can help with that. Well, first of all, we can help in many ways, but one of them is like we want to make sure we educate parents about self-direction and how to access their budget effectively. And, we can do that. And we also want to make sure that they're requesting the community class approval, for example, in a way that is clear that it should be approved, right? So like I call it like, because I'm an attorney, I'm always looking at like rules that need to be met. And if they haven't requested oh, did it start already? So if they requested the class, then we work with them to sort of like ask for either a reconsideration and then what I call help them preserve their rights. So we want to make sure that they know what they can do to get it approved. So talk to the FI. I can have one of my attorneys or one of my counselors contact them and help them through that process if need be. Some people are very self-sufficient and can do it themselves if you give them like the tools to do that, but some others need more help. But also I want people to be requesting their fair hearings if they want to, and if they know that they, if they make that decision after being sort of like, after someone explains, what their rights are under that. And we help them look for classes also if they want to explore that. So we have been requesting a lot of fair hearings and helping sort of like work with FIs on reconsideration, what I call reconsideration, like, no, you should reconsider, reconsider your decision because this class is, open to the public. It's not like, duplicating waiver services, it clearly meets a goal in the life plan, etc. I hope that's helpful. Like, right, there's no,
Yeah,
it
it's
depends on the person's situation, but we're tracking that closely because it's a big issue. I do realize that that's a big issue that we need to real hard data on. And we're helping people in whatever capacity we can to get them what they want, which is the class approved, or help them sort of like dispute that or complain about it.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I do have a 10:30 meeting, so I'm gonna have to hop off to get that started. And I know that Ira had a question and Mary had a question.
Do you want to start the meeting and I'll stay 2 more minutes here?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm gonna hop off and Floor's gonna stay on. So thank you all. It was great to talk to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank
you
Thanks,
for all your
Rachel,
information.
for joining us. And real quick, Ira, I'm just going to jump in front of you for 2 seconds. For those who didn't see my note in the chat, if you could please type in what borough you're from, that would help the FSS coordinators. Thank you. Ira, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm on my phone, so I'm not sure I'm doing this right, but if you can't hear me, you'll let me know. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for existing and getting created, and thank you so much for hosting this call. It, as a balm for parents who sort of like are tearing their hair out. I help admin a parent support group on Facebook for parents at a specific fiscal intermediary. So I'm sure you're aware of this, but maybe you can address, like I've spoken about my frustration even with the DDRO for Manhattan. And, oftentimes this thing comes back like the first questioner was saying is this they say it's against OPWDD rules. So you could go up to OPWDD rules are public, right? And so you look and you say, where does it say that you can't do this? And eventually we hear like FIs are allowed to interpret things however they want, right? And that seems to be the sort of end of it. And the other thing I'd like you to comment on is the FIs do not seem to be shy about saying that what they've started doing is meeting with each other. And what the parents are calling a shadow council, I think they call it community of care, where they all get together and go, are we approving this? Are you guys approving this class or not? And sometimes they use it as defense where they say, well, they're not, these other people aren't approving it. And so it's sort of like, well, if everybody is doing the wrong thing, how does that help? Are you guys involved in, dealing with that phenomenon? And finally, my last comment, if you can comment on that we had about that classes have to be open to the public. And now our fiscal intermediary, according to parents on our group, is understanding that, meaning that it's not just open to people with developmental disabilities, but also neurotypical people, but that neurotypical people have to be there, so that if there's no neurotypical participants in the class, then it's not, approved. So if you could just address those, I know that was a barrage of points, but about like, this idea that fiscal intermediaries are allowed to just interpret things the way they want.
I understand.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna comment briefly on that. Like I said, yeah, it's a big. I think it is inconsistent, and inconsistencies between different FIs creates problems. And I agree with you. It's very challenging for parents, and I'm tracking that very closely. It's a big priority for us. The issue with FIs and community classes. I actually did hear about the community of care, sort of like meetings between FIs, and I'm sort of like looking into that. And yeah, I'm working closely with OPWD. I need data. So people are calling me, please call us. We need this data. We need to be able to like not have anecdotal data. We need to be able to have hard numbers. Where is this happening? Who is the FI? And like report back in an organized manner back to see OPWDD. And that's what we do. And that's what we're good at. So I guess it's not an answer to your question. I don't have the power to change policy at this moment, but I can continue doing the work and reporting and sort of like strongly helping sort of like help OPWDD understand what parents are going through, or what, individuals enrolled, PWDD are going through, like in the barriers in accessing services. Guys, I really wish I could stay longer. I am so sorry. I really have to go to another meeting. I haven't looked at the chat if there is anything, but what I want to say is, like, I encourage you to email us. Email us if you have other questions that I didn't, that we did not address. Maybe if, I think that a PowerPoint, will be sent around, perhaps. It usually is. Mary, I'm not sure if you're gonna do that, but my information and Rachel's information is there. And you can call our helpline, and you'll be shocked to see that someone is going to answer, and also can help you answer questions that you may have.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll share this recording.
I hear some conversations about ABA. Is this something
No, I'm saying we're going to share this on our website.
Okay.
On the DD Council website.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I apologize.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming and joining us. We hope to do this again soon. And any questions again, this will be posted on the DD Council website, and I'm sure the other boroughs might do the same. Mary Ann, would you? Tina, okay?
Yes.
Brooklyn
Yes,
will
of
be
course.
doing.
And Brooklyn will too, right?
Yes.
Tina,
Yes, I will. Mhm.
okay, there you go. You got all the boroughs except
Thank
Queens.
you.
We'll get it on
Thank
Queens
you, Mary.
somehow.
Bye.
All right, good seeing you. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.